Hello, welcome to the Myth of Learning. My name is SMoore, and I will be your instructor for this course. I hold my master's degree in educational leadership in addition to my principal, curriculum and instruction, and superintendent's licenses. The purpose of this workshop is to expose you to the many myths of learning and introduce you to how effective learning actually occurs. There are 4 SMART learning objectives for this workshop. By the end of the workshop, participants will be able to identify and explain to students misunderstandings of learning, discuss with students effective learning strategies and evidence that they lead to more effective learning, implement effective learning strategies in the classroom, apply ways of teaching students about the myths of learning and illusions of knowing. For decades, teachers have designed their classrooms and instruction based upon misunderstandings of learning. Teachers must have an understanding of how learning actually occurs and then be able to apply strategies in their classrooms for effective learning. Teachers need to encourage students to understand how they learn, be good judges of their learning, and utilize effective learning strategies. The science of effective learning has multiple aspects, including putting effort into learning. The common practice of rereading and a great deal of practice are not the most productive, and retrieval is actually more effective. Spacing practice is effective because it presents a bigger challenge trying to remember the knowledge. There must be prior knowledge to relate the new knowledge to, as well as connecting to future knowledge. Elaboration is also effective, which means explaining the knowledge gained in different words, contexts, and explaining it differently than how it was learned. A 3-step process of encoding, consolidation, and retrieval are critical for effective learning. Encoding occurs when a learner has knowledge in their short-term memory and creates meaningful representations from the learning. Then a learner will consolidate and put those representations into the long-term memory. Organizing learning is an important function of consolidation, leading to reconsolidation and retrieval. New learning needs to be built on prior knowledge to help a learner make connections. The more a learner can explain the new content and how it relates to prior knowledge, the better the understanding. This is known as elaboration. A big part of learning is making mistakes and then learning from them and building on them. Students cannot fear failure and understand we live and learn from our mistakes. Mistakes give us opportunities to reflect, be better judges of our own learning, and to grow. Executive function skills do not fully develop until we are in our early to mid-20s, having an impact on our learning. The 6 executive function skills include our ability to focus, problem-solving skills, organization, memory, impulse control, and self-monitoring. Cramming is a commonly used study habit for students and instructional practice used by teachers. This type of practice actually leads to students recalling information for a short period of time. Replacing cramming with spaced, interleaved, and varied practice leads to long-term successful learning, causing the brain to work to recall information with effort. Spaced practice occurs when instruction plus practice is spaced out over a period of time, such as a few weeks as compared to a day or two. This leads to better learning because it taps into the long-term memory, whereas massed practice works the short-term memory. When spaced out, the brain must work to recall the content from a longer period, requiring more effort, leading to better learning. It is okay to have some of the learning forgotten between the spacing because it will cause more effort in the practice, but you don't want too much time that might cause the learner to have to relearn the material. Interleaved practice is a process where instruction on content is actually mixed up instead of presenting it in a typical sequence, also helping with spacing and discrimination. Our common massed practice has us introduced to step 1, practice step 1, and prove we have learned step 1. Then we go on to step 2 and repeat the process, then on to step 3, 4, and so on. Interleaved practice takes the approach of mixing up the steps by introducing them, practicing, but not really mastering it, and going to the next step, which may not even be step 2. The key is to revisit the steps introduced and practiced before, along with the new steps. Spiraling. What isn't popular with this process is that it slows down the achievement process of each step but research shows the long-term effect on learning and retention is better. Varied practice allows a learner to transfer learning to various situations and contexts, building a broad base of knowledge. The engagement of different parts of the brain and the area of the brain for processing are triggered with varied practice. Practicing the same content and/or skill the same way over and over doesn't lead to learning, as well as practicing the content and/or skill in a variety of ways, allowing the learner to see it in different contexts and better transfer it to apply in multiple contexts. Retrieval practice allows students to recall knowledge and apply it in different contexts when needed. Retrieval practice has to be repeated and used in spaced out intervals. Using effortful retrieval requires the student's brains to put forth more effort and leads to knowledge that can be applied in varied situations. Reflection with feedback that is spaced is an important aspect of retrieval. There are ways educators can build reflection into the classroom, but it doesn't always have to be initiated by the teacher. Students can take on reflection themselves. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research shows that our intelligence is not fixed. Through hard work, effort, and effective strategies, intelligence can grow. Believing in a growth mindset can help students embrace difficulties and challenges as well as realize we all learn differently. Learning is not effective when it is fast and easy, but instead it needs to be slower and effortful. Learning requires memory and is an acquired skill, leaving the students in control of their learning. Understanding the aspects of learning can help students become better judges of their own learning. As teachers, you need to plan your instruction so it is integrating and teaching effective study habits to students. This may be a transition for you and your students as learning may slow down, desire effort, present difficulties, and go against what is preferred. However, in the long term, using effective strategies will build strong learners. As teachers, you can build reflection into your instructional strategies and encourage students to practice reflection as an effective study habit. Known as the testing effect, students recalling knowledge from memory can help to make it easier to recall that knowledge in the future. Testing needs to continue, but needs to be put in place as a reflection and learning tool. The instructional strategies we've been using and the learning strategies we've taught to students are actually leading to ineffective short-term learning. The understanding of how learning occurs and giving students the awareness of how they are in control of their own learning can lead to long-term effective learning. Strategies that encourage effortful learning, desirable difficulties, and retrieval practices will help students to be more effective learners. This concludes our Myth of Learning workshop. I hope you gained some knowledge you can begin implementing immediately into your classrooms. Thank you.